Hey, if you downloaded my Chrome Ball mod and you want to figure out some things with it, I'll show you how to do a few things. Open the zip file and copy the metal ball folder to the clipboard and go to the user folder in vehicles here and paste it there. That way we can edit it so that you can edit it so it's in an editable state. Now the programs I shared, the Jbeam editor, that's this one. You don't have to use this, but you need to put something in like Notepad++. This is a good text document editor. It's what I use. So we can open up that Jbeam file and we can just set it over here. Let me close all this other stuff in here first. Alright, so that's the only thing that's loaded. Now we'll just put this over here, or over, like, it doesn't really matter. Then we'll load Beam. You did put the folder in your vehicles folder, right? In the user folder. Not the mod folder, the vehicles folder. So it's like that. You go to the current version, whatever it is, vehicles, metal ball. And that's what I loaded. Blank Jbeam. Alright, let's load a small grid. And we'll get busy. Let's load that ball. Load it up. Alright. Now the first thing, we'll put this over here and put that like that. Now anything you do in here and change, in the game you hit Control R and it'll reload it. Alright? So let's talk about the weight of the ball. So where that's going to be is if you scroll down to line 52, that's the node weight. So if you look at the nodes by hitting Control N, you can see the nodes that make up this ball. If you hold down the Control key, you can normally just see the nodes. If you hit Control N again and again and again, it'll show you the kilograms for each node, right? So it's saying each one of them weigh 14 kilos. So that's the weight of the ball. Now if you want to make the weight more, say you want each one of them to be, I don't know, 54 kilos. Save changes and then Control R. And you see now they're all 54 kilos. The ball's much heavier. Now I made the material cloth, so it wouldn't make a lot of noise. But if you want it to be something like metal, then the very next line, line 53, you can change this to be metal, wood, glass, stone. It's just the sounds it makes, pretty much. And the more it weighs, the more sound it does create, actually. That's actually, yeah. So save and reload. Say each node weighs 254 kilos. Alright, we just got to pause. I made it 5 kilos each. So the reason why it paused is because if you go down to line 179, that's the beam spring. That's how much the beams inside of it, the little lines that connect all the nodes together with one another. And there's a lot of them. Every node connects to every node. There's way too many, but it made a really sturdy ball, so that's why I did it. Each one of those have a spring strength of 1,400,000. So if you want to make the ball lighter, it can't have that much spring. It's basically just imploding at that point. So you'd have to make that a lot less weight. Now the next thing, I'm going to move that sound back to cloth or maybe plastic, something that doesn't make so much noise. You know what, I'll go back to cloth. Alright, now how much it can slide is the friction coefficient. The greater this number is, the more it has more grip, right? If you put it really low, like 0.1 or 0.01, it's going to be like a ice cube on a table that can just easily just slide, right? But if it's got more friction coefficient, it's got more grip. Collision's true. That means it collides with the ground. So, if you're making something and you don't want the ground to interfere with it, then you would turn that off. Collision self collision. Well, that's if you got multiple objects and you want them to collide with each other. That doesn't have anything to do with colliding with the ground. That's controlled through this. The self collision is if it collides with itself. For example, the dummy, I think he's turned off the self collision, so you know his arms can go through his body and legs can go through. It takes more processing to have it self collide, and it also can get unstable if the nodes are too close. Just depends on the node. Depends on what you're making, but that's generally off on most things. Well, most things that I make. I really don't rely on it. If I make something, I'd rather make like hidden glue, basically hidden things to hold things. Alright, let's reload it and let's go to the next thing. So the next thing is fixed faults. Alright, these nodes here, let's say this node here, well, any node, it doesn't matter. Just say AL0. See, all these nodes got names. See, it's mighty hard to see, but they all got names. And if any of them are fixed, it means they're like an anchor. They don't move. So like, if I told AL0 to be fixed by being true, and all the rest are false, and one will not move anywhere and the rest will. So let me get it out of the ground here. You'll see what I'm talking about. So that AL0 right there, that's our fixed one. Now since it's the only one fixed, it acts as like a pivot, right? It can just pivot on around. But if you were to anchor any other ones, like say AR29, then it wouldn't move as much. Well, A29. So we'll say true, and all the others will be, after that will be false. Now you could just put all the false on the bottom and all the true at the top by just, you know, copying it, pasting it, and putting the other one down there and the other and so forth, and then removing it there. I just prefer to do it this way. And say AL3 right there. We'll make that one fixed. And what you end up with is a ball that pretty much is anchored in a lot of places. So that's what the fixed, true, fixed, false. That's all that's what that does. Let's talk about the deforming now. So I'll turn these node names off. And now I'll focus on the beam deform. See, FLT max is the maximum number something can be. Like, you know, rather than put 500 billion or whatever, FLT underscore MAX with all capital letters means pretty much the most anything could ever be, like the absolute most. So it's pretty much not going to deform. I mean, it could still deform, I guess, with some incredible forces, but for the most part, no, it won't. Now, what will deform though is if you have not enough beam spring. Now, what the beam deform means though is, see, once this amount is reached, let's make it even less, so it makes it easier to explain it. once this threshold is met, this force, it'll begin to deform, right? But what the FLT max means is it can deform, but not permanently, right? It's not supposed to permanently deform. It'll flex back to its shape. It'll, kind of, you bend it up a bit. It's going to come back to its form, most of the time. Depends, but most of the time it will, it'll go back to the shape. Now, if this number is met and this number is met, say 5,000, then it'll permanently deform. Let's make it less. I'm not sure how many Newton forces are being applied to it. But it tells you there, Newton forces, I don't think that's right. This is 913, or no, 561. So it's supposed, the way I understand it, like once it's 1,000 newtons, then that's that number. But I'm not 100% sure. But I thought that's what that was. See, like it's permanently deforming now. Now, if you ever seen like the Thor's hammer, it's like this big metal hammer that, when it hits the ground, it's got this very unique characteristic where it's like it could move, but when it hits the ground and stuff, it doesn't bounce at all. It doesn't shake or wobble. It's like a perfect piece of metal, just like something animated that doesn't really normally happen like that. So let's make this ball like a Thor's hammer. Let's make the node weight like some ridiculous 2,000 kilos each. And let's increase the beam spring to make it be able to hold that weight. Because if you make it really heavy and it ain't got enough spring, then it's gonna, I'll show you, it's gonna collapse on itself. Right? It's gonna collapse on itself because the springs aren't strong enough to hold up that enormous weight. So it's kind of like a jelly or something at that point. Now, if it had Beam Deform FLT Max and had that little low spring, then it'd be more jiggly, like a jello maybe. Right? Now it's still heavy. It's still real heavy, but it's still not Thor's hammer, right? So, first thing is the springs. If you want that not to do that, it's going to need a lot more springs. So we'll crank that up to like 100 million. Now, it's not deforming. It's an incredibly heavy ball, but it's got a lot of bounce, right? A lot of bounce. So when things hit another thing, there's a certain amount of damping that absorbs the, I guess it absorbs the oscillation of that stuff, right? So that's the damping here. To minimize the amount of bouncing and whatnot, you increase the damping. Now, if you give something too much damping and it doesn't have enough weight, it's going to implode. The game will just pause. You'll know you screwed up because it paused. But remember, it's still got the ability to not permanently deform. Like, it still can deform and go back to its original state. So it doesn't really matter how much damping it's going to have. It's still going to always have that natural tendency to never kind of just settle. You know what I mean? See, that's a lot less. But because it can't take some slight bending, it'll never really just be like a big hunk of metal. So you have to adjust the deform amount. So we'll go back to that. We'll try a few different settings. All right. Let's drop it from a little bit higher than that. Yeah. Yep. So that big ball got dented up at the bottom. What we'll do to make it a little stronger. You see, it's a balance. It's like a balancing act. You know, it's how much can it give and not give, and it just depends on what you're trying to make. I can't even pick that thing up. Heavy. Go up there and spawn it. Oh, there's less of a dent. Still got a dent. Also could give it more spring strength. But if the beam deform is a lot less, all I'm saying, at some point it don't matter how much spring it's got, it's still going to deform if this is low enough. See, I'll show you. I'll give it a lot more spring. And also too, if it's got a lot more spring, it's going to have a lot more tendency to want to bounce. Maybe more damping. Maybe that's going to be too much. Now, of course, a Thor's hammer, you wouldn't even be able to move it like that. It'd be, that damn thing would probably be some crazy amount of weight. I don't know how much the damn hammer weighs. I'm not into all that stuff, comic book stuff. I'm sure people know though. I wouldn't even think I could move it like that if it was truly Thor's hammer. Well, I guess it would be just a solid mesh that isn't a Jbeam. It'd just have a collision mesh and that'd be it. Let's see here. Ooh, I messed up something, didn't I? Door's jello. That's kind of cool though. Two of them would look like. So yeah, that's a lot of weight. I don't think it'd matter how much spring it added to it. I think it's just at some point physics just break, you know, or they do crazy things. More like it. They do crazy things is probably more it. The more crazy the numbers get, the more crazy things behave. Alright, let's go on to the next thing. Let's get this stuff back to a regular number. That's not ridiculous. Alright, the next thing, beam strength. Now the beams that make this thing beams that make this thing the things that connect all the little nodes to every node, they can break, right? They can break once the threshold is met for the beam strength. So if I were to put, say, 5,000, they already broke. Now you can hit Control B a couple times and it'll show you broke beams. Now, these are actually not breaking, they're deforming before they can break, I believe. No, they're breaking. I don't know why it's not showing me red beams. It should. Oh, there you go. I'll put it in slow motion. So the beams are breaking, the nodes, well, you see all the beams are breaking, right? So, just make them a little stronger. Turn that debug mode back off. And show you what it does to the mesh. like when all them beams are falling through the floor. Yeah, that's what you're basically seeing. Alright, let's make this lighter. I think that's enough of that. Let's make this lighter now. Let's give it less damping. Make it more of a lighter ball with less spring. Let's try that. Oh, I have less spring than that. Alright, what's off? Oh, I put node weight 0. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Alright, let's go to the next thing here. Let's turn these on. So we're going to pick two numbers. We're going to pick, we'll pick AL0 and we'll pick AL14. So we'll go down to thrusters where you see throttle. Or let's do AL2 to AL0. It basically sets the thruster and says one is one end and one is the other end, like where the fire would come out. Using throttle input, 10,000 thrust. Now if I press the gas, it'll thrust like a thruster along that axis. Now it's only spinning on one side. Let me turn that blur off there. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Alright. Blur, blur, blur. Where's that? So that's basically all thruster is. Say you pick the one at the top and the one at the bottom, like that number AL48 there. Let me reset it first. Let's see when it's reset which one's actually on the bottom. So that's like A28. So we'll make that the thrust part. We'll do this on the brake input. You also can do clutch input and steering input. The only other two I know of that you can use and as a thruster. There's probably more, but those are the two I know. I mean the four I know. So let's see, what was that? A28 down there. Remember the second number, you can think of a rocket ship. The second number being like where the fire comes out of the rocket. And the top number, or the first number, would be like where the little people sit if they were in a rocket. So we'll tell this one to be A29 will be the top. A29. We'll give this a hell of a lot more thrust. Probably more than it can take. Now, when I hit the brake, I unpause it. It should take off. You just tap the brake a little bit, kind of like a UFO. And of course, the other one is rotating it. So if you're rotating and pressing the other one at the same time, it's going to do some pretty crazy stuff. So that's what thrusters do. I'm trying to think of anything else that's kind of like something easier to explain. Oh no, maybe I'll stop the video here. Think of some other little neat things that they're like simple things to do. I guess I'll save this as it is and share this one. So if you want this one that's got the little edit with the little thrust on it, then you'll have that one. Oh yeah, before I forget about the textures. So like the textures for these mods, like this here, this vehicle, when you select it, it shows you just the textures that are for that vehicle. Now since we unpacked this thing and took that, we copied that folder from the zip file, right? And we put it in the vehicles folder like this. That's the main dot material for that ball. Anything I do in here now and save it, it's going to save there. Now say I had this ball in the zip form. So I'll show you how to pack the thing back as a zip file. We'll just make a new folder on the desktop for this example and go into there. So we'll make a folder called vehicles, right? With a lowercase v. And then what we need to do, I'll just exit out of the game for now. What we need to do is we need to move that folder from here and put it in there. Because you can't have it in here and have it zipped at the same time. So you're going to be removing it out of vehicles which is the editable form that it's in, and moving it into that vehicles folder there. And then we got to zip the vehicles folder and we name it. I think you can pretty much name it whatever you want, but I just usually name it the name of the mod. Now you put that in the user folder, in the mods folder, right? The mods folder is in the user folder, but so is the vehicles folder. But if you're going to use it as a zip mod, then it goes in the mod folder. So I put it in there like that. Now anything that you load will be loaded in here, but since it's zipped up in that form, it's much harder to work on it because it's compressed. And you know how it is trying to write a file to a file that's already compressed. Sometimes you can manually add stuff, but for the most part, if you try to load a file like the blank Jbeam and you try to start doing stuff to it, you can't. That's why you gotta have it unpacked and stuff if you want to work on it, but it'll still load now. It'll just be loading from its zip form. However, now the thing about the textures, this is what's tricky. If you decide you want to do something to that texture while it is zipped, so we go into here and say, you know what, I think I want my ball to glow. I want it to glow. I want it to glow like a blue ball. I want it to be a shiny blue ball like the blue moon. Right? And you say, alright, that's what I want. And you save changes. Now what it just did, remember that user folder where we had it in editable form? It made another folder there with that name on it. And the only thing that's in there is that one change you made to that material file. Now if you did do that, then you later decide, you know what, I think my friend Scott T would love this ball. He likes to play with balls. I think I'm gonna send him this ball. Well, if I send him this zip ball here, well, those materials don't reflect the changes that I made just now. So I'd have to copy this one from this location and overwrite the one that's in the zip file. So do you see how that's kind of a pain in the ass to do that? It's just better to have the thing unpacked when you work on it. That way you don't have to worry about, well, I did this, I did that, I updated this, I updated that. And now another thing someone had asked about is textures. They said, well, I made a texture. I made a texture in the material editor for my ball. I wanted my ball to be green. I don't know. So, they made a green ball instead. And they said, well, oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute. I'm getting this wrong. No. They're in the world editor, and they don't have the vehicle selected at all. I'm sorry. They just decided to make a new material. And I said, I'm going to make a new material for my ball. I'm going to make it, I guess I'm going to make it purple ball. I'm going to make me a purple ball. That's what I'm going to make. I'm going to create it. And I think that thing's going to be purple. I'm going to make it like that. So, I got me a purple ball texture. I'm going to save it. I'm going to put it on my ball there. Well, however you end up adding it, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Because what happened is when you just made that material, where it made that material, when you saved it, back here in the user folder, in levels, for whatever level we're working on, this small grid for example, in that art folder, in that material file, is where it made that purple ball. Now, if you know the mod has the material file in there with it, and that material file is over there, then you already can see a problem if you load up, say, West Coast, and you load up your ball, because the texture's still over here, small grid. So that's why you don't want to. That's why you don't want to do it like that. Now you can edit the material file for the ball. You could do it that way, but I wouldn't suggest it. And that's something else. You know what? I tried to make a video explaining like how to do like edits like that and shit. And you know what I ended up doing is I ended up getting irritated with it because hell, it didn't even work for me. Like in the video, I made an example like, well, you can make a new texture for that ball and just add it to that texture. And like, say for example, let's get this thing unpacked again, and that'll be it. I'll be done with this video. But I'll just show you what I'm trying to explain here. So I'll go back to this. Let's close the game so it doesn't screw it up. We'll move that out of there. Alright, now I'll get this back to editable mode. I'll put that ball back in the user folder, in the vehicles folder. Oh, it's already in there. Oh, that's because that was in there. Hold on, let me delete that. Alright, so we're back in editable mode. What you should be able to do is just open the material and just like copy this one, for example. Now when a material ends, it's bracket bracket. When there's no more materials, it's bracket bracket. But if you want another material after or right before the last one, you go to here and like put a bracket and comma. That says, hey, there's another texture. And if you paste that thing above you, now don't copy that. That tells it to start the material process. You start with this and you stop it there. So it's like that. So you got a bracket and a comma, and then you got that. And then that one has just bracket bracket. I mean, if you wanted another material, well, you would just copy it like that and put another bracket and a comma. And then, you know, so that it ends with bracket bracket. See, everyone's separated with a bracket and a comma. Now I realize these all three got the same name. That's the next point I'm going to make. So then you could just say texture 2. Texture number 2. And you put that here, here, and here. Remove these if there's any textures in there now, like that. Just like that. Don't worry about changing anything else. Just leave all that. Save it. Now when you load your ball, you should have 2 textures. And if you edit the texture now, the one that you just did like that, texture 2, it should save it in the right place. As long as you are in editable mode and not in the zip mode. Now I could, if I was a gambling man, I'd probably make a bet that this ain't gonna work. When I load this ball here, it ain't gonna have 2 textures, but it should. I'm saying it will. I will know when we pick that ball. I'm gonna go to material editor and see it ain't in there. Should be though, but it ain't. Should be 2 of them in there. Now I don't know why it doesn't add it. unless I left it in the damn. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. It's not in there. Let's try this. Let's delete that. Let's delete the temp folder. Vehicles folder for temp. And just in case, we'll just see. Double check this. We'll delete that persistent ID in case that's causing a problem. Like I say, it should work. Should. But I'm not editing this video, so if it doesn't work, then the hell with it. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. I bet you I figured this out. I bet you I did. For some reason, vehicles have to have some kind of damn texture. Now, while you can send something from Blender the first time and it not have anything but a color and it make it, I'm thinking that's got to have something applied to it. So, I'll show you what I mean here. Alright, see how this has some kind of something on it, right? Nope. Well, shit. I don't know. I do know you can make another material in Blender for the DAE of that ball. Alright, I'll show you that way to do that. I know that'll work. So there's this one material there. So, but if I tell it in here to have another material, for example, it ain't gonna have anything in it. I mean, just as long as it's in there, it's attached to the DAE. Or maybe you decide, you don't want to, you don't know what you're going to put yet, but you just want to have it an option. So if you do decide to change it, you can. Which I really wouldn't see why you would do. I mean, you would just edit the one that's already in there before you would have two ones that you could work with. You know what I mean? I don't really see a point in doing that, but I suppose you could. You would just export the DAE back to the folder and delete the material file that's in there now. the ball the first time, it should make a material file with both of them. Don't mean it will. I'll just make sure delete the temp folder. Make sure ain't nothing, because the temp folder does store a cached version of things, and I don't know how much that influences. I have seen times when you have to delete that temp folder because something's not working and it was something to do with something in there. Bobby shit. I don't know, folks. What's this thing shit say? I mean, I know things can have multiple textures, but I've done it. Maybe, you know, it may be that one DAE. Oh, no, that can't be right. Because you can tell, like, you could tell this damn thing. You could say all those be texture 2, and them be green, and all the other ones be yellow, and let me see here. I know you can do that. Yeah, it didn't even write that second one. That's some weird shit. I don't know. Maybe it's a damn bug. You know, you could beat yourself up over trying to figure the shit out. Maybe all along it's just it's a damn bug in the game. I ain't saying it is, or it ain't, but I don't know. Like I said, most people wouldn't go back after the fact and make a texture for something after the fact. Now it's going to have 2 textures. But the thing is, either way, now at least, any changes you do, it's going to apply them to the right place. And holy shit, man, damn. This is something else trying to explain this. I mean, it's really not that complicated. I think it's more of a bug than anything else. I don't know. But I mean, it does let you do it, obviously, because I put 2 textures on it. But after the fact, that's a whole nother thing. Why doesn't it? I don't know. But I think I'm done blabbing enough today. I think I'm going to play some Alan Wake 2 for a while. Hope y'all got something out of this. Maybe you got some suggestions for more simple, basic modding tutorials, stuff that's on the basic side of things. I might can get that together for you.